Hey, what's up everyone? So, real quick here, this is just a video of a breakdown of the process that you can do to make your own chalk paint at home. It's going to look better than the stuff that you get at Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, or you buy from like CC Caldwell or whatever. It's going to go farther, last longer, go on thicker, whatever you need the stuff to do. So I've been doing this stuff for like roughly a year. I've been making my own chalk paint for about half that time, and it's saved me loads of money. It's just been like a lifesaver in terms of finances. Like, I can do any color I want. One of the issues with chalk paint is that it tends to come from the store in a limited palette of colors. But the cool thing about making your own is you can do it in any color you want, stuff that you'll never find at the Painted Tree or whatever craft store you happen to go to. You can have some obscure yellow that was only popular for like 2 years in the 70s. Take a chip of that paint that's big enough for them to use. Oh, it's gonna be like kind of like that big, like a $50. But you take that piece of paint to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, they'll have this cool little magic machine thing, and it's gonna basically match that color, and you'll get that exact color in the cans. You know, robin's egg's really cool. That's actually one of the colors I'm gonna make today, is like a robin's egg that I call shipwreck. It's something you won't find from any other creator except for us. So you can pick all this stuff up at your local hardware store or Amazon.com. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna show you guys exactly the process, and I'm gonna do a cool time-lapse thing, I don't even know. If it looks like in the video like I'm not using my left hand, it's because my left hand currently doesn't work. I just kind of got over some pretty gnarly surgery. You want to see it? Yeah,
Okay,
cool,
that's plenty of that. That guy's pain meds just kicked in. Let's go ahead and give the people what they want and show them how to make this paint. How about that? Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with some of the materials that you're going to need to carry out this whole process. In my hand, you'll see right here is just an oil funnel that I picked up at Walmart. I cut the end off of it so it was a lot shorter. Also in my hand right here, you're going to see me bring it up to the camera. This is almost essential for when you're working with these big gallon cans like this. It's just a little lip that you insert into the ring of that paint can, and it creates like a pour spout almost for the can. And I mean, try pouring a gallon of paint without one of these. It's 98 cents at Home Depot, and I mean, just a killer deal. You can use them, just wash them off or whatever after you're done. You know, hopefully don't let it dry. Next thing you're going to want to do is take one of these here stir sticks. You can get them for free 99 at Home Depot. Just don't be that jerk that takes all of them, because, you know, I've been that guy before. It's me. I need you to not be that jerk so that I can be that jerk. Anyway, you're just going to want to make sure you don't have any paint separation. If you leave a can sitting around for a while, it's definitely going to separate it. This stuff's like paint 101, guys. But anyway, just make sure, I try to stir for an extra like 30 seconds to a minute. This stuff I just picked up from the store, and you know, it was pretty good to go already. I just like to be double sure, especially when I'm going to be adding stuff to the paint. Another thing I like to do is use one of these smaller sticks just to get that residual paint off. When you make large quantities like this, you really don't care to waste the paint. At least I don't. So I just like to scrape it off, make sure I get as much back in the can as possible. And because I'm working in a you know, little plastic table area, I'm not super worried about getting paint on my stuff. But if you are, I would also recommend laying down a tarp. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're going to want to do, now that we have our paint mixed up and everything else is ready to go, just grab whatever receptacle that we are putting our paint into. I like to use mason jars because that's actually my end item packaging. But if you're just doing a single batch, you know, Tupperwares or whatever work. I personally like to use jars because I can just shake it, but you'll see that later. It's, you know, a couple steps down the road. But what I like to do is fill the jar at least a third of the way full, if not half of the way full. But just, and this isn't a portion thing, you'll see why later. But here we go. Okay, so we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of how to make chalk paint. What you're about to see me dipping into here is called calcium carbonate. This is a 20-pound bag of the additive that I got on Amazon.com for roughly $25, so it's like $1.50 a pound. And I mean, dude, this stuff is a killer deal. It goes a long, long way. 20 pounds of this stuff lasts me several months of making a lot of chalk paint. So because we're making this in the size of a pint, we're going to add 1/3 cup of calcium carbonate to our paint that we already have in the jar. The reason that I had you add that paint to the jar was so that you could have something to sit the calcium carbonate on top of, and that would prevent it from sticking to the bottom. Next thing you're going to see me do is add a little bit of plaster of Paris to the mix. Now, I usually use about a teaspoon of this. That's all you need. I have been doing this for long enough that I really don't need a teaspoon. I can just kind of eyeball it with the funnel. But again, 1 teaspoon is all you need. You can actually use this interchangeably with the calcium carbonate. The problem with the plaster of Paris is that it doesn't have the shelf life that the calcium carbonate does. The reason I use it in this is because I feel that it helps with adhesion. But as you can see, now that we've got the plaster of Paris in there, we just go ahead and pour it up to the base of the lid. Now that for me means, just under the threads, but you're going to want to leave a little bit of room in there to shake up. And now that we've got that filled up to the top, I'm just going to go ahead and grab a damp rag here, and I'm going to wipe off the threads of the jar, because if you do leave any paint on there and then you seal it tightly like you're supposed to, it's going to act like glue after it dries. Believe me, I found that out the hard way. You just want to make sure you get those threads nice and clean before you put that mason jar lid back on. And now that we've got everything together, lids on tight, all of our additives are in there, this is what's going to look like. You're still going to see some of the white spots, and here's about where your paint level is going to be before you're ready to shake it up. Just making sure the lid is on tight and shaking it really, really good. Make sure all that white dissolves out of the jar, because that's the stuff that's going to stick. I want to do a couple checks, shake it a little bit more. There we go. Now that it's shaken up, we just go ahead and pull this lid off and make sure we don't have any big clumps or anything floating around in there. And it's looking pretty good. All right, now let's do the, what do we call it? The time lapse? Yeah, and do 12 more of these mothers.
Shutterstock Music.
Alright guys, that does it for this one. Here's our final product after, me gussing it up a bit. But again, thank you so much for taking your time out to watch this first quick tutorial video. I really hope that you found something that was useful and that you'll be able to go forth and make your own chalk paint. Now, if you don't feel like going and making a whole batch of chalk paint, maybe you don't have the time, but you still want to restore that furniture, I do have this stuff for sale at Van Patten Country Restorations at Facebook, and then at Reblooming Co. on Instagram. So, if you do end up wanting this stuff, it's like $10 per pint, $15 per quart, way cheaper than you find in the stores, and you can see the packaging right here. And here's some of the final products, that I put out over the last year using this exact method of chalk paint. And yeah, guys, again, thanks so much. I'm Mal from Van Patten Custom Restorations. You guys have a great day.
Shutterstock Music.